We're in the shop today and thought I'd do a little video. Was involved in a thread, excuse me, speaking about priming tools and how we primed our cases. I'll be honest with you, most of my cases I prime on my presses. I've got no problem with that, and I don't see how anyone who bulk shoots can prime with a hand primer. And I'm not criticizing them at all. I'm just saying that I tried a couple of hand primers and they just wore me out. I couldn't keep up with the demand for my firearms, and so I always just primed on my press. But I did try a tool. I had some primers that were hard to seat. Some of them I was crushing, and a lot of it I believe was the fault of the case, not so much the primer. The primer may have been a little oversized, but I think the main part of the reason was the cases. A lot of cases that I had, and they were 30-06 cases. But anyway, be that neither here nor there, I ended up buying this priming RAM unit from RCBS. Thought I would try it. It's a unit that mounts on top of your press. Now today I've got this, and this is one I use it on. This is a Pacific Tool Company press. This is an old thing, but it's a C press, and I like a C press because it's open in the front. You got the freedom of movement for your hands. So I mounted it on this press, and it'll mount on about anything. It'll mount on a rock chucker or whatever your press is, as long as it takes a standard slip-in type of shell holder. It's got this shell holder that goes in, and the RAM or the priming unit sits in the hole on that, and you can change this out. It's got one for a small primer and one for a large primer. And this unit, it goes up through the die that mounts on the top, and it has a shell holder on the top. Put your shell holder in for your cartridge case, and then you adjust it by this lock ring. You can loosen this lock ring, turn the die in or out, depending on how deep you want to seat your primer. Now with me, I put my primers out the side of me here. These are Winchester primers. They're large pistol primers, and I'm going to use this today to install primers in the 45 Colt case. These cases have been sized. They've already been expanded, ready to receive the bullet. So today we're seating primers, and it's pretty straightforward. There's different ways to adjust this. Now I've got to hold this phone in one hand and do this. So you put your primer down in your cup. A lot of people don't like to touch your primers, but listen, if your hands are clean, you're not going to contaminate these primers. I've seated several of them this way, and I've never had a problem. And once you set your primer, you just raise your arm of your press and drop that down below the shell holder. You put your case in the shell holder, and you push down on your handle, let your RAM move upward, and seat that primer. Now there's people will tell you that you've got such leverage on these presses that you'll crush that primer. But I found that after just a very short learning curve, that you'll get the feel of that primer seating in the case when it finds home, and you'll not be crushing any primers. I've not had any trouble with it at all. If you look at the primer here, you can see it's seated perfectly, just below the level of the case head. It's not crushed. It's in good shape, and I have no trouble doing this whatsoever. This unit is set up that you can adjust this to where you can drop your handle all the way and let your RAM go to the maximum height and seat the primer, and you can adjust it so that each time that you seat a primer, you lower the handle all the way. But I prefer to adjust it different, to where the handle doesn't go the full length of its stroke, and you stop it. Instead of being stopped mechanically, you just stop the movement of the RAM and the handle when you feel the primer seat. So it's pretty simple, and once you get the hang of it, once you get your cases and your primers set in a way that are good for you, it's a very easy process of seating these primers. But anyway, I planned on setting this camera up out on the side and let you watch my system of doing it, but you'll have to work your own system out anyway. But it is a very simple way to seat primers. I see no trouble with it. I know there's other ways it's better. You've got them that will feed the primers automatically, and I'm sure they're a lot better, these bench-mounted primer setups. But I don't seat a primer like this very often, just in a few rifle cases, and I seat them in my 45 Colt this way because I don't load my 45 Colt rounds progressively, and I've got a reason for that, and we'll not go into that today. But anyway, that's the RCBS Ram Primer. They call it Ram Priming Unit. Very simple to use, very simple setup. It's not very expensive. If you want to try priming on top of your press, if you've got a C press, you got a rock chucker, whatever you have, as long as it takes a standard type shell holder, this unit will work for you. Anyway, hope you enjoyed the video.